So, what is the free zone and why should you care? Well, the free zone is my concept of trying to find a new way to organize people to be productive, but also happier, healthier, and wealthier than they are under the typical kind of hierarchical structure that you find in the world today, and which incidentally hasn't really changed in the past 5,000 years. So, I guess it's kind of an attempt to set a new paradigm for for human existence, a path into the future, a more responsible way, a more sustainable way, and a fairer way for everyone involved. So, essentially, what it is a concept for society that has no superstitious element to it. There's no religion in the free zone. Science and reason and rationality will carry us forward, as it always has, as they always have. And the other thing is that there will never be elected or appointed officials, government officials, in the free zone, in the traditional sense. I mean, someone might have to serve, there might have to be some, mandatory government position that has to be occupied, in which case we can just, pass it around. Somebody gets to do it, each week, whatever. But the essence of the free zone government is no elected or appointed representatives. The people directly propose the laws, write the laws, and enforce the laws. And that's another word for that is anarchy. A lot of people will tell you it's just chaos and no authority at all, but it's not. It's where the authority rests in the people, and there are no professional rulers. So those are the only two concepts that are intrinsic to what I call the free zone. No religion and no elected government. Economically, the free zone would rest upon both socialism and capitalism. There's nothing wrong with capitalism provided it's done responsibly. There's nothing wrong with big multinational corporations so long as the people own them. And socialism, I believe, is the best way to meet or address the people's basic needs. That is, water, food, shelter, medical care, and eventually education in the free zone. We'll have to do it in stages, obviously, but even from the beginning, medical care will have to be free. And that goes for the construction portion of the project. Well, from the very beginning. From the time that we move into whatever parcel of land we select to the time that there is no more free zone. All those things will have to be met. And of course, because it's a modern society and we're going to live in a modern society, we're also going to need to generate power. So socialism will allow us to do all those things most effectively for the people and in fact use those very basic services as possible sources of profit in the future. Again, so long as it's done responsibly and so long as we're also ready to give when we have to people who really need it. So basically, why should you think about something as radical or different? I wouldn't say radical. These aren't radical ideas. They're just being combined in novel ways. Why should you consider supporting such a project? Well, I live in the United States. So the problems that I'm going to be talking about are particular to my country. But anywhere in the world, if you're facing persecution because you're not religious, or, for any reason, or you're not doing well in a traditional societal structure, the free zone is something you should consider. Here in America, you can hit on any topic and it's a problem. The infrastructure, that would be the roads, bridges, and dams, is in very bad shape. I've got a picture stored on my phone right now of an I-80 overpass that's being held together with zip strips and plastic wrap. And I'm not exaggerating. That's not hyperbole. That's how they shored it up until they can eventually get the money to fix it. So if you're driving along I-80, be prepared to possibly be in a bridge collapse there. I don't know what to tell you. Greatest country on the planet, land of the free, home of the brave, whatever. law enforcement needs to be reformed. The whole criminal justice system needs to be reformed. The military spending is out of control. And frankly, we don't use our military in a responsible fashion, in my opinion. Women don't have equal rights. And I mean that in a very basic sense. I mean that the Equal Rights Amendment, though it was passed by Congress, I think in 72, was never ratified by the requisite number of states. So it's not the law of the land. Women don't have equal rights in the Constitution. And of course, we've seen regressivism in other areas of women's rights, reproductive rights. So, that's all hashed up. The education system, from kindergarten to to higher education, is screwed up. Climate change. We're one of the few countries that won't get together and have an organized response against climate change. I mean, Biden's done some things. Certainly he's better than Trump, but, that's another thing. Every election cycle, you only have the choice of the lesser of two evils. There's never a good choice for president. Bernie Sanders was never going to be a candidate for president. So, he's way too unorthodox and not likely to kowtow to the system to ever be offered as a presidential candidate. Anybody that you have to choose as president is going to be a loyal flunky. Simple as that. So, as a citizen of the United States, although I realize economically we're in a lot better shape than some other places still, that's getting worse. Our wages are stagnant, so there's another thing, They've tricked people into settling for $15 an hour when realistically they would have to be what, 23, 24 bucks an hour just to keep up. So, people are, and that won't be rolled out for years and not everywhere. So, there's very little reason, in my opinion, to stay here. The political situation is not stable. That's degenerated into just worse attacks and smears, and they're just not even really attempting intellectual discourse anymore. What about the national debt that nobody even talks about? What is it now, $30 trillion? I know it exceeded our GDP sometime last year. So that's another another reason to get the hell out. But going back to climate change, a lot of the models have, large portions of North America turning into desert. And some of the portions are the ones that we rely on for food, so there's going to be food shortages. Water is by no means guaranteed. In a lot of places, the people don't even own the water rights. Some corporation does. So there's really, to me, from my perspective, there are a lot more reasons to get out of America than to stay in. And for anyone who thinks they're going to stick around and fix the system, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I became politically aware in the 1980s. And guess what was being talked about back then? Women's rights, abortion rights, and how I needed more of them. And you know what? 40 years later, same argument. No progress. In fact, like I said, it's regressed in a lot of ways. So, I've wasted a lot of my life here in America trying to fix things, and it's not going to happen. So it's best, in my opinion, it's best, instead of wasting your life trying to fix a system that's broken by design because it benefits a small number of people, it's better just to move out and find somewhere else and do our own thing. Because I guarantee we'll make a lot more money. Guaranteed, we will make a lot more money doing this than sticking around and being wage slaves. Even educated people in America are devalued. There are a lot of degrees out there. They're graduating more people than there are jobs because the economy, which has turned into a service economy, is not hiring masters and postgraduate level people. So that would be my initial pitch for why you should consider joining a project like the Free Zone. I think that not having religion in the Free Zone is extremely important. I think there should be one place on earth where you can go and live and not have to put up with that every day of your life. This is just wishful thinking nonsense. And of course, historically, you can go back to any problem that humanity's ever solved. It hasn't been solved by religion. It's been solved by science. People willing to sit down and actually do something, figure out how to change things, figure out how to make something better. So that's why that's such a huge issue, for me at least. And that my vote would be to never include any kind of religious activity in the free zone. But, because there's no elected or appointed officials, that's up to everybody to decide. But I think it's wise to have a bastion of reason and sanity in an insane world. And that's the simplest way to put that. And then no elected and appointed officials. There's the current system of government, although it is more egalitarian than it has been in the past, like I said, hasn't essentially changed in 5,000 years. Sure, emperors and sultans and kings have been replaced by premiers and prime ministers and presidents, but it's still essentially the same power structure. And I think that it's time for a change. I think that people can govern themselves without any kind of professional input. I think the average person knows what's best for them and the people around them, and will act in that way in most cases. So I don't think there's any reason to ever consider elected or appointed officials. You always deal with corruption. And revolution, violent revolution, or really any kind of revolution, isn't a solution, because today's revolutionary government is tomorrow's status quo government. So you're just delaying the inevitable. And in the meantime, a lot of people suffer. So I say let's just eliminate that portion of human society. It's parasitic. It's redundant. It's not useful. And here in America, you can compare any number of social issues, what the people want versus what the government's doing about it, and there's no correlation. So they're useless. Worse than useless, they're obstructive. And so I think the obvious rational solution is to put together some money as a group, find a nice fertile piece of land that's relatively far north or relatively far south of the equator, because as temperatures heat up, those areas are going to be least hardest hit. The farther away we can get from the equator, the better we are. In fact, there's a huge plot of land for sale for not a lot of money. They want more than they're going to get, of course. But there's a huge plot of land for sale in Chile, or there was. And it's very, very far south, though. It's very cold right now. So I don't know about that. But in any event, those are the basic reasons why I think you should consider the Free Zone and learning more about the Free Zone, which you can do on Facebook at the Free Zone Project. I'm going to be posting more of these videos going over the various aspects of the Free Zone that I've already written about. There's probably 60, 70, 75,000 words on the Free Zone Project page already. So by all means, go and read it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment on any of the posts. I'll be happy to try to answer them. Yes, if you are a free-minded and independent thinker who wants the best for yourself and your children and their grandchildren, etc., 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 then we should get together and talk, because that's the whole basis of the Free Zone. It's people getting together and talking and solving problems. So, hope to see you there. In the meantime, I'll be posting more of these videos, and if you have watched all the way through, then thank you very much. My name is Chris, and I'm representing the Free Zone Project, and I hope to see you back again soon. Thank you.